What is up, my fellow movie nerds? My name's Barry King, and I am that weird movie nerd. 2019's The Vast of Night, directed by Andrew Patterson, who is a new director in Hollywood. And I gotta say, this is a perfect first film for a new director. It stinks of new director. That's not a bad thing. That's really cool. I absolutely adored this movie. It was such a fun little experience, just a fun little movie, and let's talk about it. You can definitely tell that this is a very low budget film, and I've got to say, I love it. I love the feeling this movie gave off. It has this certain low budget charm, low budget feel, low budget shine on it, a little polish, and it's gorgeous. It's got a really neat little story to tell. It's eerie, it's alluring, it's cute, it's petite, I've got to say. And I love the ending as well. It's just a neat little package of a movie, a little experience. I love experiences. I love movies that say, hey, this is our story, this is our idea, here it is. There's nothing more to tell, there's nothing more to reveal that happened before. It's just this neat little package, cute little package, and I adore it to the moon and back. The soundtrack also plays a big part in that. I can say that I loved a few of the scores in this soundtrack. The whole soundtrack wasn't amazing, but it definitely brought that 1950s alien vibes, which everyone knows and loves, and it fed that beast inside me that loves that vibe, that genre. I loved the setup of the two main characters. It was really weird. It was a really weird introduction. You're like, okay, there's this main character, then he starts talking to this little girl, and you're like, so he's the main character. Is this just a character that he's talking to, and then he'll go off and make his own quest? No, we follow these two characters. It's a really weird but unique introduction to these characters, and I'm all for it. But I gotta say that I didn't really know what these characters look like throughout the whole movie. The first 10 minutes, it was so dark, it was so unlit, that I'm like, is this going to be throughout the whole thing? And it was. I wasn't sure if it was my TV, but then I realized I read some reviews and they're like, yeah, it's very dark, it's very unlit. It gives that micro budget feeling of not having enough lights and all that, which happens with my short films all the time. And it just wasn't one of my favorite things in this. I really like lighting, so when it gives this letdown, when it gives this lighting that isn't up to my expectations, up to the Hollywood expectations, it just really drowns me, and I didn't like it. But it was kind of a style. I kind of leaned into it and was like, oh, it's really dark, it's very moody, it's very atmospheric. But at the end of the day, I really wish I could see these characters, these people telling these stories, these encounters, these scenes. But by far the most outstanding thing in this movie is the dialogue and the acting. Like, I have not seen dialogue like this in a long time. It felt so natural. I was so drawn into these conversations, these stories, the things that these characters had to say. I listened to every single word because every single word felt real and felt like it gave something to the story or to these characters or just to the overall feel of this movie. And these freaking long takes, I've got to say, they amazed me, especially that 10-minute scene with the girl with the phone lines and all that, just putting them in and talking and having to go back to this person and having to refer back to this person, and it's just gorgeous. Just these one takes are so amazing, and they draw me so into this world, into this movie, into these moments, these scenes. And this movie wouldn't be the same without them. It wouldn't be as interesting. I wouldn't be pulled in as much. And I really respect that, using this budget to the greatest of its expenses, using every cent in the budget to make this movie the best it can be. I will say though that this movie felt like a video game, going from person to person to person, figuring out information about these aliens and this scenario and this town. Just gave off those video game vibes, and I feel like that's why I vibed with it so much. Because you just went to this person and you collected this information, you found out this thing, then you go to this another person and you found this information, you found how that's connected to this information. Kind of like those boards where you put the pins in and you're trying to connect everything. It was gorgeous. I love these mysteries that you've got to try and unsolve, and then you can get this one thing from this one person and connect it. It's amazing. They did it beautifully in this movie. One little complaint, but it's not really a complaint because the movie kind of explains it, is that this town seems so empty, and that's one of the main plot elements, is because the town is so empty. The aliens come and they try and abduct people or brainwash certain people, and I get that. And it's also a budget thing, how they can't have so many people on a scene, because then you got to pay them, and then you got to actually talk to these people and say, hey, you walk this way, you go that way, you shout this thing to this person. It's a whole thing, and it doesn't really work for a micro budget film. And again, I respect how they're using this micro budget and how they're utilizing it into the story and all that. But I would have liked to see more people in this town, but then again, that's more of a personal preference, and it's not a complaint about the story. It's just, yeah, it felt very empty, and it didn't feel like a town at the end of the day. Wow, this is the shortest review I've ever done, I think. I'm done. I got no more things to talk about, except that I've just got massive respect for this director and these people who worked on this movie. It's such a work of art, and goes to show that you don't need $1 billion to make a movie. Marvel. And it's got what, like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was a $700,000 budget. That is so small for a movie. And it just gets me pumped for the future, for if I go to a company and pitch them a movie, that if they give me $700,000, I can possibly make something as beautiful as just cute and petite, just tell my story and get out of there. And then hopefully somebody in Hollywood can be like, hey, you are good at directing that one thing, come and direct this $1 billion movie with me. It's not so much for the audience, but just for us filmmakers, make us feel like we can get somewhere without a budget. Like, budget doesn't matter. You can still make a movie that gets 90% on Rotten Tomatoes without a huge explosive budget. Alright, sorry, I'm ranting. Now, for all those reasons, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, not a 5 out of 5, because it wasn't something that I will go back and watch over and over again. It's more just a beautiful representation of a first director's vision when given a small budget. Leaks love. It feels like this team of people actually love this movie, love this concept, and poured every ounce of their love into it. And I've just got mad respect for this team, for these people. If I said anything wrong in this review, if I said anything right in this review, comment it down below. I would love to talk about this movie, or just filmmaking in general. I love talking about films, even if I'm right, even if I'm wrong. And if you got anything to expand on my comments, on my points in this video, comment it down below. We'll talk about it, and we can just have a good time down there. And also, if you have any other movies like this movie, or just movies you think I'd like or you'd want me to review, comment it down below as well. I'll get around to watching it if I can in the near distant future, if I get through all the movies I've got to get through already. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next review.